day, Brother Dawn and Brother Dusk.
Foundation is a sci-fi show starring Dr. Julian Bashir.
Foundation is a show based on books by Isaac Asimov.
Foundation is a show that has planets in it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, a podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to.
But you still can.
Yeah. Every show has at least one planet, maybe. I don't know. I like that one. That's a interesting start. Today, you may have guessed, we're doing a review of Foundation on Apple TV, episode 1, entitled The Emperor's Peace. So, let's talk about it. We have our very special guest co-host, actress, designer, entrepreneur, Malissa Longo.
Hi. How's it going?
Hey, Melissa.
We've also got the Vice Provost for Academic Affairs, or Vice Provost at Duke University. He's a lot of things, including an occasional Star Trek science advisor, good guy, cool shirt, Dr. Muhammad Noor.
Hello, always a pleasure to be on Fallingtowers. Watch the first of things.
And my name is Ryan T. Husk. My shirt today is mediocre. It's just a plain, what is it? It's like a grayish blue or powder blue.
But it matches the color palette of your background.
That's
pretty awesome.
That's why I did. Actually, I kind of think it might match yours even better. Kinda. All right. So, everybody at home, if you'd like us to review a show, we are now beginning Sci-Fi Month. October, all October long is Sci-Fi Month. If you want
us horror business,
Sci-Fi. Yeah. Might sneak one in.
Where's the gore?
Maybe in this episode. So if you'd like us to review a show, in the comments below, just type WTF and the show, and please let us know where it's streaming. WTF, of course, stands for Watch the First. So in this case, in the comments section, you would have typed WTF Foundation on Apple TV. This has been suggested many times by many people, and we are happy to do it. Please give this video a thumbs up, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review if you would be so kind. That's it. That's all the bookkeeping, right, Muhammad? I have no idea where to go. I need a map.
Oh, now is Brian's favorite part of the show. These are the predicaments. These are where we predict what each other thought about the show.
Muhammad does not tell a lie. It is my favorite part of the show. We all three know each other pretty well for the last few years or several years. We've been on multiple shows together, like this one, like The Seventh Rule, like Virtual TrekCon, like Cheers. We were on that show together.
That was fun, yeah.
Empty Nest.
I was Sam Malone.
I was definitely Carla. Obviously.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
I was not Diane.
No, you could be Lilith. You could be Lilith.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Or Glenn Allen Hill. Sam. Remember that guy? The guy upstairs. Anyway.
Be Norm.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to be Norm, actually.
Norm's chill.
Norm is chill.
Hey, what's up, Norm? My nipples. It's freezing out there. That's what he would say. All right. Predictions. Dr. Noor, I predict that you are fairly high on this, like right on the 7 or 8 range. I don't think it's the best thing you've ever seen, but I think you liked it pretty well. And I think I'm pretty close because you had to check something to make sure.
I was like, I don't remember what I put down for my score.
Yeah.
Like, oh, good luck.
Melissa, I think, look, body language. You didn't like this show. We'll find out why later, but body language from the second we hit record tells me you did not like this show. Don't know why yet. We will find out soon. What do you think, Dr. Noor? Melissa's pissed. She's like, how can you tell? Damn it.
Ryan, I feel like this had a lot of the pieces of things you like. You like it when there's a good setup. You like it when there's something to draw you back to continue watching. Some unresolved pieces. You like character development. There's a lot of that in there. So I think overall you're going to be quite positive. Melissa, I think I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic. I can't tell what you're saying.
I said body language.
Oh, yeah. I think Melissa, I'm going to be a little bit more positive than you, but my thinking was that this may not be her favorite, but I still think she liked it. I think it's still in the above 5.5. So not even like right in the middle. I still think it'd be above 5.5, but maybe not like high above. We'll see. We shall find out. That's just a guess.
You guys are giving scores and all. It's like,
you do what you like. No rules.
Yeah. You can just be at top half, bottom half if you want.
Yeah, this is always the scariest part of the show for me. Because I never know what to guess. I don't know what people like. I mean, I kind of do, but I don't know. And they're not always the things that I like. So I don't know. So, but I'm going to be an optimist today and say that, Mohammed, you enjoyed the show, and I think you enjoyed many of the elements of the show and what it brought to the table. Also, based on what you already mentioned for Ryan's prediction as to why he liked it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to agree with Mohammed on about Ryan's view of this show. I think that you both think it would have been a pretty solid start to a show.
Interesting. All right, everybody, in the comments below or in the live chat right now, make your predictions. Do you think I liked it? Do you think Dr. Noor liked it? Do you believe me about the body language that Melissa didn't like it? Or are you like, no, Ryan, you're dumb. Melissa's just using her poker face. She loved it. Let us know. Make your predictions.
Should we predict what specific people predict for us? Like Glenn Iverson right now is typing in for me.
That would be fun.
Yes. I think Glenn Iverson and War Dogheim both like this show, so they are predicting high marks for us. Like they're saying like 7, 8, 9s for us in that realm. That's what those
I bet Dave Gregory is very positive.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So make your predictions, everybody. Take your time. There's no rush. Dr. Noor is going to buy us a little bit of time by letting us know what this show is even about, by the way.
Yeah, this one was tough to summarize since it was 69 minutes. All right. 35 years before the starting point of this series, Professor Harry Seldon has perfected what he calls psychohistory, which purports to mathematically predict the future and suggests the galactic empire will fall within 500 years. Seldon invites young math whiz Gall to the capital planet, only for both of them to be promptly arrested for sedition. On trial, Seldon tells of his predictions, and Gall is asked to confirm his math, which she does. Both are slated to be executed, but suicide bombers from 2 colonies cause a catastrophe, killing 100 million people. The Emperor clones exile Seldon and Gall off to an isolated outer rim planet to try to find a way to mitigate the effect. On that planet, there's a giant diamond-shaped structure that mysteriously keeps all life away from it, all except for one woman.
Oh, dun dun dun!
Dun, dun.
Well, if that's the case,
I had to swap the word a little bit for the summary. Otherwise, it would have been like all over the place.
So what Mohammed, everybody, is trying to say is that we hope you're getting close to finishing up your predictions, because it's time for us to move on to the next segment, which will gradually give you an answer as to whether we did, in fact, like this show. And this segment is called
expectations. This is where we talk a little bit about what you expected before you saw the show. And then finally, we spend most of the time on what you actually get in. So basically, we compare and contrast what you expected with what you got, as Ryan puts it. But I like my way.
So we like to compare and contrast what we expected versus what we got. All right. Well, Dr. Noor, let's start with you. Before you saw this first episode of Foundation entitled The Emperor's Piece, which I kept wanting to call The Emperor's New Piece.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought maybe there was an allusion to it, in fact. Like, it did feel like that was either coincidental or deliberate.
Yeah.
But tell us, Dr. Noor, before you watched this first episode, what did you expect, if anything?
So I had not seen this show before. I had heard people refer to it. I'd heard a lot of people like rave about it, like, oh my gosh, it's like the best show. You have to check it out. It's really great. But I didn't really know anything about it, aside from the fact it's sci-fi. When I looked it up, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember vaguely this was based on some Isaac Asimov stuff, which I mean, I've read a tiny bit of Isaac Asimov, but not much. So I didn't know. I mean, again, just reinforced it was going to be sci-fi. But plot-wise, nothing. I had no idea. I had no idea what the name meant or anything at all about it.
What about you, Melissa? Before you watched this first episode, what did you expect?
Well, at first I expected nothing because I had never heard of it before.
Oh.
And then I watched the trailer, and based on the trailer alone, I was expecting something pretty trendy, something that was a mix between Game of Thrones and Star Wars, and with a little bit of The Expanse mixed in. That's what I got, and honestly, I wasn't really expecting much from the trailer because of how trendy it looked.
Ooh, I feel like
I'm curious what it had.
Yeah, me too. I feel like there's an ellipsis after that, like a ... and wait to find out if that's what it actually was in just a moment. But I'll tell all of y'all what I expected, if anything. Pretty much the if anything part applies to me here because I didn't really expect anything. Hadn't seen it. I had heard the name volleyed about in commercials or maybe in a pop-up ad or something. I knew that Foundation existed, but I never saw a trailer or a teaser or didn't know anything about it. So I didn't expect anything. Apple TV, they do a lot of sci-fi. They seem to have a budget. I feel like that company's going places. So they might have a few extra bucks, Apple. We'll see. We'll see. So they do have, yeah. So really nothing. But Muhammad's got his clipboard ready. He is going to tell us what he actually got. Everybody, pencils down on your predictions. Muhammad's going to tell us what he actually got.
Yeah, I forgot to mention I had to resubscribe to Apple TV to get it because I didn't have it, and I've been waiting for All Mankind to come back. So I mean, like you said, a lot of good shows there. For All Mankind, Severance. I mean, happily, those were fantastic shows. I liked it a fair bit. I mean, it wasn't as Ryan said, it's not my favorite show ever, but I did like it a fair bit. The pieces I liked were I thought it was very well. I'll confess, I was a little confused right at the beginning. Like, you know, there was that present day future thing, and then it was jumping back, and I was trying to figure out what everything was, and there's so many planet names and people names. If I wasn't taking notes, I would have been like, okay, I'm losing a lot here. But since I was taking notes and periodically pausing to write stuff down, that actually helped for keeping track of it all. But I did find it very thoughtful. I thought the acting and music and imagery were all very good. There were a lot of twists in the shows it was going, like, oh, okay, I didn't see that coming. Oh, okay, I didn't see that coming. That was good. It just was like a lot to follow in this first episode. It was heavy. I did like the mix of science and politics. One thing I felt like I still felt like the end went a little bit too quickly. I feel like I didn't quite get like what's to come. Like I didn't get a good sense of what this show is going to be going forward. I mean, this was a nice setup, but I didn't get a sense of like, okay, now these people are going to be off exile on this planet, like doing math, I guess. okay. That doesn't give me a sense of like what the show will be like as I'm doing it. I mean, there is this other plot with the diamond thing, and that was kind of like barely set up in there. But and especially the teaser at the end was very good in that regard. It was like, okay, now I'm being drawn in more. So that was helpful. But I still felt like it would have been nice to get a sense of like what the show will be like more so than I felt like I got from the first episode, especially given the quantity we got there. I have like a full page and a half of notes, which is very unusual, even for a longer show. So I'll stop there because I don't want to go into the nitty gritty without you guys getting your opening volleys.
Yes, it is time for Melissa's volley. What did you actually get?
I got a show that I didn't expect. I was scared at the opening scene, where it followed the kids, and I was like, "Oh no, is this show going to be about these kids?" And because
I'd still be, for all we know.
Yeah, but then it turned out that the opening scene actually worked for me in the setup of the mystery of this diamond thing, the vault, and so that worked for me. I got a show with, as Ryan mentioned in the beginning of the episode, with Alexander Siddig. Yay! I was so excited to see him. But I also got a really intelligent show in my opinion. I love shows that combine science and politics and theology, and then asks those questions, and not necessarily giving us the answers to those questions, because who really knows, right? So yeah, I think that it was a show filled with a lot of unique perspectives on things, and visually it's stunning. Stunning from the costuming. It's not the typical sci-fi costuming that people kind of fall back on. And yeah, I think they let their imagination go wild with this show, and I like that. I really like that a lot.
Sounds like Melissa liked it. I, on the other hand, this is what I actually got. What I got was a sci-fi show for sci-fi fans, I think, for people that aren't the casual sci-fi fan, but the real nerds. Like I know, like I can really point out of all my friends, the people that I'm sure either like this show or would like this show if they watched it. Unfortunately, I am not among them at all. This is the first time I've ever wanted to turn off a show, not out of anger or disgust, but because I was like, okay, I get it. I felt like I didn't need to watch anymore to be able to review it. Like, I'm like, okay, I get it. What I got was a show that was so much information and so many names and so much world building and so many notes to take. I was like, I can't do this for 70 minutes. I can't. After at 8 minutes, I was breaking into a sweat. At 20 minutes, I was cussing at the walls. At 35 minutes, my finger was on the trigger. I was like, I just want to, I'm done. I'm done. I get it. I'm not mad, but I know how I feel about this. I don't need to watch anymore to know how I feel about this. Spoiler, I did watch the end because that is my job. I remembered Dr. Noor saying in the past that he wanted to turn off a show and did not for the betterment of the team. So I did that in 70.
That was in horror too.
Yeah, 70 excruciating minutes. I'm not necessarily saying this show was bad. In fact, I don't think it was. But man, but just another spoiler. It got better for me. It did get better. Not amazingly bad. Maybe it was Alexander Siddig that turned me around, but his performance was amazing, and it got better. But the first 20 minutes to 30 minutes especially was all exposition and people and names and lore and mythology and stories and flipping. I was like, just let me watch a show. Give me a character. Let her go meet people. I will meet them with her one by one. Don't just vomit 50 freaking characters and planets into my face while I'm yawning. Anyway, so, but again, I'm not saying it was a bad show.
You're saying you loved it.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. Since you like this show so much, let's quiz you.
Oh.
Besides the main character and the guy, Harry, who is your favorite character?
Besides those two?
Yes, exactly.
We mostly saw.
Tell me their names without looking at your notes. Who is your favorite character besides those two?
I have to say their name?
Yep.
The only other name I could think. Well, I mean, there were the three Emperor clones. There was like Day, Dusk,
brother Day, Brother Dawn, and Brother Dusk.
Yeah, but they weren't my favorite. Maybe that was the guy's name, Gerald or something like that. The guy who was helping.
I'm not telling.
Yeah, it was Gerald.
I think
it was Gerald, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you, Melissa? Did you have a favorite besides those two?
I would have said probably Gerald as well. Yeah.
There was an interesting thing at the beginning. So speaking of names, right when it transitioned, because remember, as Melissa said, started there in the present day kind of present day future with the kids, and then it jumped back. But when it jumped back, it said there's all this revolves around Harry Seldon, but also a mathematician, a martyr, and a murderer.
Yeah.
So the mathematician's obviously this Gaul person.
Yeah.
Nope. But he was all of those things.
He is all those things.
That's what I got from what she was saying about him.
Oh.
He's the most important part of the story.
Yeah.
And he is a mathematician, a murderer, and a martyr.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I thought it was like him plus 3. And I thought, okay, so we got the mathematician with Gaul, but I didn't know who the martyr and murderer was. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Her name was
Gail.
Or Gail, sorry. I wrote down as Gail.
But Sid actually called her Gaul. He was the one that called her Gaul. So
he was doing it off the script too.
Yeah, he's like, my word, I say her name like I want to say her name. That's what he said.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, that's funny.
I do want to say though that and Melissa, totally with you on the kids. I was sweating bullets when I was like, am I gonna have to watch 70 minutes of kids? I will be very sad. And so I'm taking furious notes off of each kid and their name, and this
Polly is one of them.
And then we just get introduced to 15 more people. So, but I was happy that we didn't have to deal with kids the whole time, because that's tough for me. Muhammad, I think, very, very astute point, if I may use that word, when you said at the end of the episode, we don't know what to expect in subsequent episodes. Usually, when a show ends, both things, serialized and episodic. If it's episodic, it's a demonstration of what the further episodes will be. We know what episode 2 is going to be like because we saw the formula in episode 1. If it's serialized, it ends on a cliffhanger, but we know where the story is going because they're off on their quest for the ring, or they're training for the boxing match, so we know what's going to happen. In this one, I have no idea. Episode 2 could be, for all we know, 20 new characters in that world, because they're just introduced this gigantic world, right? That's a really good point about this. And I do think that's usually a bad thing if you don't have any idea what to expect.
Well, I had the expectation of that they were going to follow Gail and Harry and their journey to building up this new world and how they got to where they are 35 years later. That's what I got that we will be getting from the next episode, as well as seeing how the empire will fall, as it is mathematically predicted. And so see, that is all very interesting to me. And the thing I found interesting about this is because it piqued my curiosity and raised certain questions in me that I didn't want the answers immediately for, because I want them to take me on a journey. So laying out little seeds and pieces and clues is great in my book, because I like trying to solve puzzles. So
it's interesting that you're predicting it would be focused on that, because my assumption was, since it ended with Salvor Hardin, the woman who can go up to the thing, I assumed it would pick up with that rather than back with Gale. But I guess, or it could be both. Maybe
it's probably going to be like
volley between the two.
Yeah, it's probably going to be following a lot of storylines, because this is one of those shows that suffers from having a built-in fan base already. You know, it's Isaac Asimov. A lot of people, I'm sure, have already read the book or the books. So they're going to be patient, and they're going to be like, oh, they introduced this character. Oh, like if they did a new Lord of the Rings, I know it's already happened, a new Lord of the Rings movie, I already know who the characters are. So they can introduce 30 of them, and I will know who they are, right? But if you're a new person, you'd be like, just give me Bilbo and let them meet people along the way so that I can meet them. But I do want to point out personally that the show was beautiful.
Oh yeah.
So beautiful.
Oh,
immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately gorgeous and unbelievable. And not just beautiful for the sake of, eye candy. It was beautiful in its world building. Like it let your mind go to places like, wow, this planet has 3 moons, or this space station is like 30,000 feet above, or whatever it was, the planet, and it's got this gigantic elevator, and then when it collapses, it's like a gigantic rope.
That was amazing.
It was, because it worked, and you can see it, and you can understand it, and you're fascinated by it because you can wrap your brain around it. And it was just gorgeous in its depictions. And I think that is an A+ for, in that regard. Now, I think that's another reason maybe why this is a show for sci-fi lovers, because sci-fi lovers love to see new planets, new ships, new aliens, whatever it is. And this has that in spades.
Yep.
I totally agree. Sorry. And I think that's what I really liked most about this episode is the visuals. When they're exploring Gale's planet, and we see in the water the flying ray type things, I was just blown away by that. And visually, it is just eye candy. It's stunning. There are so many moving landscape portraits, or paintings that you could just capture in a moment, like the one behind Muhammad. And it was just visually stunning. I loved it.
Totally agree. Well, I was going to say that you mentioned about the worlds too. That was the one thing that the characters thing was a little hard to follow. But for me, it was like there's 5 different planets that were mentioned in there throughout the whole thing. Because there's Synax, there's Terminus, there's Trantor, there's and then there's the people from Anacreons and the Thespis. Like, okay, like which one was Thespis again?
Right. You got to give us time to
That's a lot.
soak these in. Let me tell you just names of people and planets, okay? In my notes, okay? We've got Terminus, the Vault, Gia, Kier, Polly, Salvor, Tranto, Synax, Gale Dornick, Gerald, Demerzel, Anacron, Thespis, Master Orleo, Dawn, Day, Dusk, Lors Avakin, Church Seer, Tribunal of Cleon 12, Advocate Silas, What else do we have? So you see what I'm saying? It's like so much. Give me a second, guys. Like, we don't need to introduce everything. And anyway, I'm kind of beating that to death, but
yeah. And some didn't need to be like the painter. Like, we didn't need to know the painter's name. Like,
no.
that was completely irrelevant because I assume we'll never see him again.
Right, because then we're taking notes on it. We're learning. We got to do all this stuff, and then when they kill him, you're like, well, why?
Why did we?
So then I
kids
found
in the beginning too. Maybe we'll see them again. I don't know.
With him, Muhammad, since you brought that up, since I was taking notes on him, and I actually kind of liked the character, they had a really interesting conversation. It was one of the best conversations, maybe the best in the show. I thought it was really smart, really interesting. He was talking about periwinkle and stuff like that. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then they kill him. I'm like, what the heck? That was the best intro. So then I found myself hoping that we get like flashbacks. So I'm like, why would they do that? Why would they introduce all that in one scene and kill him immediately? So I hope that we revisit that guy.
Yeah, there were some great lines, like you mentioned too. Like, was it art is simply politics' sweeter tongue? Ooh. That was a fascinating line. Like, I could just sit there and think about that line for a long time.
Yeah. Well, but I also like the use of language too. From the different planets that they didn't give me subtitles, and usually that drives me bonkers because I want to know what they're saying. But the guy with the giant red Spaceballs helmet, when he was talking shit about the Emperor's mural, you totally know what he's saying and what he's talking about, and we can't understand the word. So I like those kind of things. I like that the language isn't modern and isn't modernized and dumbed down for current viewers. But I also agree that there was too much information in this first episode, and I stopped taking notes about names and planets and what have you, and I was like, that's what IMDb is for.
I missed a few. There was also Master Orleo. There was also Raish. There was Harry Seldon. There weren't any lines that stood out to me. Usually I'm taking notes on quotes, but there were a couple that made me laugh mercifully at the end. When the Empire guy, was probably Day, and then he's like, they're like, if you kill what's his name, Harry, then the fall accelerates. And then he says, if you kill him, the fall accelerates. What are the odds? He was very. Oh, and by the way,
the two people who can save the world are sitting right here in my throne room, or something like that. Yeah.
Lee Pace, who played that character, is also in The Hobbit. Great actor.
Oh.
So that was cool. So I was kind of rooting for him. And then I think at the very end, Harry said something like, you didn't know that this would be the case. You didn't know, you lied. And she said, I hypothesized. It's like, clever.
I like
good.
That part
that
too.
Works.
Yeah.
That's all the ha-has I got. What about you?
I didn't expect any ha-has, but I did like the hypothesized part. And
you like the respect and enjoy the peace.
Respect and enjoy the peace.
Made me think of Mind the Gap.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to see more food and what kind of food that they ate in this galaxy. We got a little bit. They were eating peacock. Great, but that's kind of boring.
Plus, they're in a planet 100,000 light years away. Why are they eating peacock?
Why are you eating peacock?
And why are you advertising a different streaming service?
Yeah.
They're like, I like this. This peacock tastes way better than this apple. It's paramount that we make these kind of distinctions.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Yeah. But also the clone idea thing was interesting to me as well, and it raised a lot of questions in my head. And maybe it's my own curiosity that made it so good in my head, in my brain. Why I enjoyed it is because it had me asking questions about why they would have 3 different stages of life of the clones, and it so that the older ones can influence the younger ones so
Mhm.
that they always stay on track, which is interesting. And I wonder if the personalities ever deviate from clone to clone. I mean, because even if the older clones are influencing the younger clones, each clone is going to have their own experiences, which, changes brain chemistry, and that individual experience can't be replicated. So I just wonder if it's like a Wei Yun, where that one Wei Yun was a defector, and because he didn't agree with the Dominion. So yeah.
I also wondered about that, and that was a very interesting storyline or plot line. I wondered if, as they age, if when Dusk dies, then Day becomes Dusk, is called Dusk, because otherwise Day is going to be the oldest, Dawn is going to be the middle child, and then they're going to have to reuse Dusk for the baby or something. So I'm assuming they graduate. You know what I mean? When one dies, they graduate and they have another. Yeah. So that was a really interesting idea, I thought, as well. But I mean, look, Isaac Asimov is known as pretty much like the premier sci-fi writer for decades, right? So I'm not surprised that he has such skill at world building. And I personally love world building. I love this world building. I love this world that he's created, the mythology that he's created. That was really, really good. And it's great that you can completely immerse yourself in a completely new arena. It's just with worlds, with, all the different styles and people and planets and the galactic empire that rules over the galaxy, and it's been ruling for 10,000 years. And, it's going to fall in 500 years, to which I go like, 500 years. If they said like 500 days, they'd be like, well, we better get on this. But 500 years, they're like, whatever.
Well, I guess for a dynasty, but true. I guess for a dynasty of clones who has been ruling for 4 centuries, that is kind of drastic for them. But I was reading on IMDb after I watched it some of the reviews, and it's interesting that those who have read the books and read the trilogy hated this show, and those that haven't really enjoyed it and thought it was really well done. So I think they may have jumped shark a bit from the books and
changed it a lot, probably.
Yeah, what Asimov wrote. So I don't know. I haven't read them. So
in the words of the great Seinfeld, that's a shame. So what's not a shame is talking about our friend Malissa Longo. Malissa Longo.
Awesome to talk about.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Can't wait. And we don't have to. Malissa, let's talk about you for a moment. What is new? You've got so many things happening. What's new in your world?
There's a lot of things happening in my world. Well, I'm on strike at the moment, but being an actor and yes, note this show does not cross any SAG lines or strike lines or anything like that. So we're not scabs.
What a relief.
Not scabs.
Yeah, otherwise the show wouldn't be happening.
Right. Exactly. But I've been writing a lot. I have a Patreon page where I'm writing a story that's set in space on a different space station. So reviewing shows like Foundation is really helpful in maybe skirting some pitfalls. So this is always helpful. I also have an online business with my partner, Quan King, and it's called The Introverted Republic.com, and my page is Walking Art Made by Melissa, and there's a bunch of things that I have drawn and created that are on that site. So yes, like Muhammad's shirt.
Yay, it's such a cool shirt. I love it. It says listener at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And lots with virtual TrekCon and Seventh Rule, things like that too.
Right, which is awesome.
You're awesome to be on them.
No, but it's a great virtual TrekCon and walking the Seventh
Walking
Rule.
Art Made by Melissa is great too, though. .com. introvertedrepublic.com.
Yeah, no, but they're great in that they I recently wrote an article talking about fandom for Trek and
Daily
virtual
Star Trek news.
Yes, for Daily Star Trek news. And virtual TrekCon and the Seventh Rule have been, I think, instrumental in promoting the health of fandom and positivity of fandom, and instead of, it's been very positive. So, and I enjoy being a part of it. So
that was a pregnant pause right there.
Well, you add a lot of the positivity. I mean, you yourself, you're always in the live chats, you're always adding these positive things. Oh, that was great. Oh, that was awesome. You're always there. And then on the shows also, again, great positivity throughout. So thank you for your contributions to that.
Totally. Now, everybody, you can find all of Melissa's goodies at theintrovertedrepublic.com. Also, she'll be, when she's back, maybe the strike will be over. She'll be able to talk about acting gigs as well. But for now, those are obviously on hold. She also has a YouTube channel. Check out 3 Fat Lobsters. What the heck does that mean? Find out. Go check it out on YouTube. So it's time to move on to a very important portion of the show. Not more important than this last one.
Not more important. The bottom line. It's this line across the bottom, like a crunch.
It's the most important to the streaming service. It's the final 2 questions of the show. And question number 1 is, on a scale of 1 to 10, Dr. Muhammad Noor, what would you give Foundation on Apple TV?
So I am one of those sci-fi nerds that you described. You probably would have pegged me as that too. Because of that, I felt like this was the kind of show that I would like a lot, potentially. So I gave it an 8.3. I could have gone higher, but again, I did struggle a little bit. And I struggled a little bit at the beginning, and then at the very end, I felt like, wait, what's happening again now? Wait, they're back over here. So that pulled me down a little bit, but still overall, I left with very positive memories. I left still thinking about it for a good amount of time after watching the show, which to me is a very positive sign. As opposed to if you just finish it and you just move on, then that's not so positive. But that's good sometimes for sitcoms, because maybe people just want a distraction. They don't need constant thought. So fair enough.
What about you, Malissa Longo? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm going to give it similar to Muhammad, an 8.1.
Nice.
Yeah, because it did pique my imagination. It piqued my curiosity. I liked the fact that the science that it revolves around is math, because we never see that. And it was interesting that we have this prodigy who was so intelligent, but she didn't have all the answers. And her intelligence didn't necessarily get her out of a jam, but it did. But she didn't get everything right on the first try. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate the character development and relationship building between people in this first episode, which is important to me. But on the flip side, there were too many names, and there were too many names and too many names. So it did get confusing, and I did have to stop and rewind a bit to say, okay, what did I just hear? I didn't really understand that. So, there was some of that in there as well.
Cool. Yeah. And then you also don't know, is this character name an important piece of information that I need to remember, or are they just going to die, or is it just a flashback? You don't know, so you have to take notes on everything. And if you miss something, then you missed it, and it could be really important later on. But I'll tell you what I gave it. Look, mercifully, in the second half of the episode, they started focusing on the story. They kind of slowed down on the introducing of a million things, and they gave us a good story starting in right around the courtroom. Okay, that's when they kind of all the mess went away, and they just kind of focused on the story. I wish they had a little bit more of that focus from the beginning. So mercifully, it did get a lot easier to follow for me. So that really ramped it up a bit. Also, like Muhammad, I found myself thinking about the show afterward. Less so about the show itself and more just about the world that they had built in that first episode, the lore, the mythology. And like Melissa, I loved the mathematic plot line. Although I'm sure that is an Isaac Asimov creation and not something that had been changed or whatever for this. So that's a really good idea, really good story. Overall, when it ended, I was shocked that the number that popped in my head was a 6.4 for something that I did not really enjoy at all. I was like, why am I giving it a 6.4 if all I want to do is bash it? Well, because there are some things that they did extremely well, and it was beautiful, and there's a lot of good nuggets of story in there. I just didn't like the way they executed those stories or that story. So 6.4, surprisingly high for what I thought I was going to give it. Now, question number 2 is the big one. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Foundation. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Dr. Muhammad Noor, would you of your own volition watch the second episode?
Likely tonight, yes. I almost did it earlier today. I was like, I don't want to get confused and start tossing things out for the rest. So I'll probably do it tonight.
What about you, Melissa? Would you, and at what time today?
We can watch it together.
I'm never going to watch it ever again. No, I would. Actually, surprise, surprise. I would. I'm curious to see what's inside the vault. I want to know what's in that diamond. And I want to see how this planet that had no life on it begins to have life, and how that their exile leads to that and development and growth of this planet and the people on it. And visually, again, it was eye candy. It was so beautiful. I just couldn't stop saying, wow, wow. And then the huts looked like little stilts from Southeast Asia, the little islands from Southeast Asia. And I love that there's little cultural nuggets all over this episode visually. So I like to see more of that.
Are you curious what a bishop's claw is?
Yes.
Me too. I was like, what is that? That's a weird name.
Fun. Well, you may be surprised to hear, everybody, that I would not watch the second episode. Because I can't imagine that visually stunning is going to carry me through 10 episodes, carry my attention. It might.
For 11 hours.
But it would dwindle. It would get less and less. At some point, I'm going to need something to hang on to. But I might be a little curious. I might ask my friends Andre Kottman or Dave Gregory to summarize it for me. Give me the cliff notes, because it does open up a beautiful world and some really interesting theories and some great stuff with the mathematics. But I would not, of my own volition, subject myself to that. Again, I'm sure it'll get a lot easier as the episodes progress, once you kind of get the hang of the names and the people, and maybe they stick to 2 or 3 or 5 people. But anyway, it's a no from me. I'm not mad anymore, but it's a no. So everybody at home, if you'd like us to review a show, and tell us in the comments below what you think of Foundation. Am I nuts? Are they nuts? Let us know. And in the comments below, also make your suggestions of which sci-fi show you'd like us to review. And that is it. Make sure you give this video a like. Yes. Tell us where we can stream it. That's very important for us. That's it, everybody. So what I'm trying to say is this podcast only had 3 characters.
This podcast was a great chance to hear more from Malissa.
This podcast was easy to follow.
All right. Freeze frame like Dawn.
Do we want to know what Michael Caine Rosenberg would tell people first?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I guess.
Sure.
Tell him what
we like him. He's a cool guy. So Michael Caine Rosenberg would, if he were here, would probably say, don't forget to be an organ donor and don't forget to watch the first of things.
I was too excited to do the freeze frame because I was being way too clever with it. Like Dawn.
No.
That shitty smile and pretend that